The Week on Green 960.
And now, Sebastian Kunz.
Well, each week the kicker is supposed to be whatever got the biggest reaction out of me in the particular week. Whether it's the biggest laugh or the nastiest snarl, whatever evokes the sea bass passion, if you will, is what I almost always write about. This week I was astonished to learn something new about Easter candy. The candy lineup. I've almost always had this thought, it seems like, that Easter was in fact the single best candy season of every year. It's not that it happens around my birthday, it's not just that anyway, and it's also not that there's not other killer candy at the other times of the year. I love making and eating Christmas fudge, for example. Halloween, well, that is simply a candy festival all its own. But at Easter, I long ago realized that there appeared types of candy that went away. Types of candy that were not available elsewhere in the stores or at the other times of year. From the month of May till about the month of March of the next year, seasonal candy. It was fascinating to me, and the first ever example I ever really identified was the Cadbury Creme Egg. If you're not familiar, it's kind of a hollow egg with a chocolate shell, and inside is this highly sugary yellow and white filling. It's meant to resemble the white and the yolk inside a regular chicken egg. That sterile, scientific description, however, somehow is a bit short of the real truth. The real joy that, to me, is the Cadbury Creme Egg. It's chocolatey, it's way sugary. Then, of course, there's the reveal. Anything with any kind of reveal I'm a huge fan of, whether it's a show at Disneyland or a movie or a way sugary candy treat. If there's any sort of ta-da moment, I really like that. So this week in the Twitterverse, I was almost horrified, certainly shocked to learn that some folks don't just dislike Cadbury Creme Eggs, some people viciously hate them. One description was, it's too sweet, 3 words together whose meaning I simply cannot fathom, but others objected to the texture of the sugary white and yellow filling. One person called this candy work of art, this Easter treat turned magic trick, great in concept, but bad in execution.
Messy is vile. Yuck. So I wanted to like them, but I bit into one, and as much of a sugar junkie as I was when I was a kid, I went, nah.
Meet okay, thanks, bye. From Twitter. She's not somebody I actually knew or was following on Twitter prior to this week, but when I started chatting with Slack Mistress about the Cadbury Creme Egg, okay, thanks, bye had some rather profound and insightful input, if not slightly horrifying opinions about the Cadbury Creme Egg.
Because you were such a staunch advocate on Twitter, when I had to go to the grocery store that night when we were talking, and I gave the Cadbury Creme Egg the finger, because I usually do, but then I petted them and I said, you know what, at least sea bass loves you. I like the concept of the egg filling and the fake yolk and nothing but concentrated sugar in it, but execution-wise, it doesn't really do it. And I think if they could do something with the viscosity, it wouldn't be so bad, I guess, if it was caramel.
Okay, so it's no big deal. Really, to each his own. I'm not so childish that I can't figure out different strokes for different folks, but it did get me thinking. Maybe I really am the only one that likes the Cadbury Creme Egg. I called the Cadbury folks for an interview, and they did not reply. Also, I tried other folks like Ghirardelli here in the San Francisco Bay Area also didn't get an interview, but I did decide to dust off some of the old experimental methodologies I learned way back in school and do an unscientific sea bass scientific study. The Candy Lineup Easter Edition.
Now, if this mechanic guy was in fact eating a Fifth Avenue bar, as he claims, wouldn't you agree he would have no problem picking one out from a candy lineup?
Candy lineup?
I've spent the last hour preparing 10 candy bars, with no wrappers or identification of any kind for him to select from.
Took you an hour?
Only I hold the answer key to their true candy identities. And so, without further ado, I give you the candy lineup.
Well, this isn't meant as any sort of expose like George Costanza's candy lineup was. This is simply an Easter candy preference experiment, a survey, if you will. The reward for the participants was just to keep whichever kind of Easter candy they liked the best. I took a couple of steps to try and eliminate certain confounding factors. I tried to remove some of the bias, at least. The mass of candy on each sample was kept to within 30 to 40 grams, roughly. I also rotated the order of the candy from time to time throughout the trials just to make sure people weren't picking whichever one was on the left side or whatever. Again, not scientific, but it sure felt sciency to me. So the offerings were as follows. One Cadbury Creme Egg, 34 grams. One of its cousin, the Cadbury Caramel Egg, similar but with caramel inside, also 34 grams. A small 42-gram bag of another cousin, the Cadbury Mini Eggs. These are solid chocolate inside with a sugar exterior. A plate of jelly beans. We used the Lifesavers brand jelly beans for our experiment. And a plate of mini robin eggs. These are like Whoppers, malted milk balls, only with a candy coating on the outside, which are also only available around Easter time, by the way. The jelly beans and robin eggs masses were eyeballed. We had to measure them using sort of guesstimation. It was based on the fraction of the weight of the big bags that they came in, so at least a bit of science there. And last but definitely not least, a 31-gram package of the original Pink Peeps. Okay, the originals were actually the little chicks and not the bunnies, but it's Easter, and they were on sale. I did 12 trials, never once mentioning to any of the subjects which type of candy had sparked the experiment, also never mentioning my favorite, never steering people toward or away from any one form of candy, just saying, pick whichever one you like the most and take it, it's yours. And again, the mass of the candy was meant to be roughly equivalent, so nobody was picking based on quantity, and I did rotate the order of the candy again every so often. So for the first 4 trials, the results went like this. Trial 1 went to the caramel egg. Trial 2 went for the cream egg. So far, so good. Trial 3 went for the miniature robin eggs. Again, they're like Whoppers. And Trial 4 went for the Cadbury Creme Egg again. Hey, after 4 trials, the Cadbury Creme Egg was in the lead. But no matter how the rest of the experiment came out, I really just wanted to know that I wasn't alone in liking the Cadbury Creme Eggs. As for the next set of 4 trials, I again rotated the candy offerings and again asked my participants to just pick the one they liked the most. Trial 5 went for the jelly beans. Trial 8 went for the Cadbury Mini Eggs. As for trials 6 and 7, after deliberating for a time, both of them ended up going for the caramel eggs from Cadbury, making them now the top choice out of the 8 trials. In the last set of 4 trials, again having rotated the candy, Trial 11 went for the Cadbury Mini Eggs. Trial 12 went for the Lifesavers jelly beans. And Trial 9 went for the mini eggs again. Trial 10, finally, the only participant who went for the original Pink Peeps. So what's the purpose of all this? What is this supposed to prove? Again, the only real question I needed to answer was I alone in loving the Cadbury Creme Egg, the original Easter time only candy? And clearly that answer is no, I'm not alone. Whew. As for the scientific value of the other data, well, I cannot claim to vouch for it or even believe it's really scientific in the slightest, but it is good to know, despite the loud vocal opposition in the Twitterverse, that at least I'm not alone in my love for the cream egg. To be fair, I do like all 6 forms of candy that we offered in this experiment. Cream eggs just happen to be my favorite, but strangely enough, my arch nemesis now, online, okay thanks bye, in a telephone interview with her on Thursday night, perhaps had the most profound soundbite of the entire news piece.
You're not a fan of the mini eggs, and I'm not a fan of the cream eggs, so that means more of each for the both of us.